As the magical energies of the portal dissipated, Tavon emerged into vibrant chaos of the Clerk's ward in Sigil. Dressed in his best, which was a simple, slightly wrinkled attire, he blinked in amazement at the kaleidoscope of sights and sounds that surrounded him, and trying not to look like a Burke. Being of average height, with tousled brown hair, he swung his satchel over his shoulder and rounded the bend. In the bustling labyrinth city of Sigil, every street seemed to twist and turn in an infinite maze, but he deftly navigated through the crowded thoroughfares of the Clerk's ward, clutching a bundle of papers tightly against his chest. The Clerk's ward is a cacophony of voices, languages, and constant shuffling of feet. This is where the multiverse finds law and order and discuss in perpetual discussion. The buildings were tall, imposing, in architecture of all planes of existence. His steps quickened as he approached Tensor's employment service. He straightened his shirt, dusted his pants off, took a deep breath. He paused, looking down at his map, glancing up at the labyrinth of streets and alleys that crisscrossed the Clerk's ward. Maybe they're on a tight deadline and they just needed someone to help out. He was glad he could be the right man at the right time, especially in this city, which is the center of the multiverse. He finally arrived at Tensor's employment service, took a moment to catch his breath before straightening his attire, adjusting his hat, took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped inside. The bronze plaque over the doorway of Tensor's employment service captures the essence of the man within, for no one in all of Sigil is more trustworthy than Utatis Tensor, a portly man with a curly red beard, an easy grin. Why he chose to spend his life operating an employment agency, I'll bet Sigil's best known, most successful one, is dark to everyone. A man with his leadership skills, command of magic, could have been an explorer, an inventor, or even a great ruler. But if asked about his avocation, he'll sit back in his patched leather chair, fold his arms on his weathered desk, and say the words he must have repeated 1,000 times. I provide the greatest of all gifts, the gift of work. A life without work, my friend, is worse than no life at all. Tensor operates from a nondescript red brick building in the whole road. Employers from all corners of the city pay him a fee, 1 to 10 gold pieces per month, to screen and interview applicants, knowing that he'll find them incapable employees. A black slate in the shop's front window lists some available positions. Tavon hurried out the front door for a work order for a Professor Quilithro in a place called the Laz School of Vivid Unpleasantness, and he hurried off, unfolding his map as fast as he could. Just down the street from Jenna's compound is the Laz School of Vivid Unpleasantness. Impossible to ignore thanks to the brilliant hues of its stucco walls. Walls set as impossible angles to form indescribable shapes. Artists studying here tend toward controversial expressionism. Black-garbed buskers perform round the clock in the school's public courtyard. Pungent clove smoke rises from the scented pipeweed, favored by the crowds who gather to absorb the atmosphere. The street musicians, an avant-garde theatrical performance, create a cacophony that lends to a festive feel to the immediate area surrounding this island of creativity. The school's not just for any Burke. Most fans are young, independent, and bleakers. Tavon bumped into a hulking Githzerai with a shaved head and tattoos that covered most of his body. He apologized, said his name was Thranak, and was an instructor for the sonic dissonance, teaching students on how to use sound to evoke discomfort and agitation. He guided me to the professor's office. There, a tiefling with black obsidian skin and dark eyes that seemed to hold mine forever. She thanked me and said she was the head of illusion and deception department here at Laz School. She wore these flowing, iridescent robes that were graceful, almost like her shadow. For a second, she was almost hypnotic. She began to talk about crafting illusions to delve into the darkest fears of every individual. Students both admire but fear her. She told me that she loves to experience the most vivid nightmares. She then handed me a broken scribe pen that she needed fixed. I thanked her and headed off. There I saw trioptic Nick Epona, or best known as Triona. It resembles a giant rearing Nick Eponia, her front legs curved defiantly, her long mane billowing in the wind. A short walk from the hall of speakers, fashioned from fist-sized chunks of azurite and onyx. The statue stands nearly 200 feet tall. 3 oval eyes, 1 ruby, 1 emerald, 1 amber, are spaced on her forehead, like the points of a triangle. Each cabochon cut gem functions as a portal. The ruby leads to the prime material plane, the emerald to Elysium, and the amber to Mount Celestia. To activate a portal, a cutter must hold a small gem identical in shape and cut, but not in size, to the corresponding eye, and step into the base of the statue. There, 3 square platforms, one each of ruby, emerald, and amber, functions as a portal. A traveler holding a gem, as previously described, stands on the appropriate base, speaks a command word to activate the base, and then embarks on a planar journey. The command word, however, are known only by a handful of dignitaries. A circle of Doomsguard, armed with swords and throwing axes, surrounds Triona night and day to prevent unauthorized access. Tavon looked at the work order and followed the instructions to take it to Grundle Thumb's automatic scribe. This small shop's the only officially sanctioned one of its kind in the cage. Anyone with a jink to cover its fees can pay for an automatic scribe to write documents of any kind, statements, or intent to purchase. Promises of payment are due, exclamations of passion, whatever the body needs or wants, set down in writing. The automatic scribe is a contraption of Grundle Blackdagger's own creation. It appears to be nothing more than a metal wall with 5 small grills at roughly mouth level and a horizontal slot below each grill. To the right of each grill is another slot, this one vertical. A body puts in a jink, coins only, in this little opening, speaks into the grill, and waits for the written document to appear in the slot below. There's only one problem. In his zeal to create the automatic scribe, he accidentally enchanted a flaw into the lady's defenses in the cage. He intended to bind some erudite elemental into the machine. Instead, a lesser power from the abyss is pretending to be the automatic scribe. And already nasty but minor things have started happening in and around the shop. Chant in the hive claims that the blood war's coming, led by whatever lesser power this or whoever has slipped past the defenses. In any case, before long, as Tavon finally got to the front desk to give the work order, somebody handed him an urgent message. He was to pick up a box here and bring it to the Hall of Speakers. Tavon grinned. He wanted to make a great first impression, so he hurried off. Tavon approached the Hall of the Speakers. The entrance was marked with a set of imposing double doors. Carvings of tongues, quills, and ears were done with impeccable craftsmanship. Embedded into the walls were translation runes, and different species were standing next to them, allowing the translation magic to foster and spirit the understanding and dialogue. The Hall of the Speaker. This glistening spire atop the Hall of the Speakers symbolizes the glory of the individual, a cornerstone of sign of one's philosophy. A massive statue before the building underscores the point. It depicts a woman holding an entire world. Within the walls of this stately edifice, factals and plebeians engage in a lengthy, detailed discussions about the precepts, statutes, and decrees affecting all cagers. Any cutter with a silver piece to spend can rent a meeting hall for an hour. The administrators guarantee privacy. Cagers may also listen to and occasionally participate in the speaker's podium debates. Scribes for hire can be found by the dozens outside. Because of the intense competition, a scribe can be rented for an entire day for as little as 2 silver pieces. But avoid those who claim to represent Grundlethumb's automatic scribe, an invention of Grundlethumb's Blackdagger that allegedly operates in an invisible wordsmith. A Burke speaks the words, and the writing magically appears. Only Grundle Blackdagger himself has signer's permission to solicitate work in this area. Dealing with a Knight of the Cross trade can result swift retribution from the Hall's security force. Tavon brought the box immediately to Viridia, an archivist and scribe at the Hall of Speakers. She nodded and thanked him, handing him a few coin pieces for such prompt service. She smiled. She also said, "Here, this is for Tensor. Make sure he's the only one that sees this." As their fingers touched, she gave him a sly smile. He probably couldn't feel his feet on the ground all the way back to Tensor's. On the way there, he looked up and saw the Hall of Records. He must have had his map upside down, because all of a sudden, he found himself in the middle of the Civic Feast Hall, the headquarters of the Society of Sensation. The Civic Feast Hall is noted throughout the multiverse for its concerts and art exhibitions, as well as its wine shops, taverns, and jewelers, all catering to the most discriminating customers. While tickets for many of the Feast Hall's concerts sold only to the sensates, citizens can gather behind the Feast Hall to listen to the music through the walls, providing they behave in an orderly manner. and disperse as soon as the concert ends. On occasion, the administrators open their personal galleries and museums to the public, and because the sensates encourage artistic expression in all forms, they tolerate, even encourage, informal performances in the streets. Those skilled at juggling, singing, and dancing can make surprisingly good living collecting coins tossed by appreciative spectators. Tavon found himself in a revelry, a concert going on. As he emerged out, he looked and couldn't find the note. "Lost something, mister?" Tavon turned around. Yeah? Looking for this?" And there it was. What? Please, I don't have any money. What do you need?" Someone needs to talk to you. There, at the green gauge." Tavon looked over, and across the street was the green gauge. The green gauge across the street of the Civic Feast Hall sells glasses of cider cutters sip while sitting on the curb. This is the establishment of Marta Farambler, a priest halfling. Marta followed her adventurous husband out on the plains, and after he got himself killed, she decided to stay. Scraping up a little jink she bought this place. Over the years, it's earned a fine reputation. Although it's not wildly popular with the big folks, Marta refused to bow to common sense and build the place into a proper scale. Or rather, she built it perfectly proper scale. For anyone shorter than 4'6", the commons are both spacious and cozy to little people, but the seating is cramped for anyone a small human size or taller. They're the ones who drink their cider while sitting on the curb. Cutter might think this shortcoming would be the end of Marta's business, but in Green Gauge, is second home to members of Sigil's gnomes and halfling community. Marta specializes in cider, both unfermented and hard, from the orchards of the goddess Sheila Perry Royal. The latter cider is such a potent brew that Marta normally allows only 2 tankers per customer. It's a sure sign of her trust when a basher gets more than his in a single night. Nobody knows how she manages to get this rare brew, but most guesses it's repayment of a debt owed to her late husband. Most guess correctly. The supplies of Sheila's gold comes directly from the Power's realm, in permanent repayment for the debt owed to Wrangle Farambler for his role in diverting for a flank of the Great Modron Parade that was about to wipe out large areas of the Sheila Perry Royal's blessed orchards. Tavon entered, sat down, and had 1 cider. The room began to spin. He didn't know where to go. This man started laughing. "Please, I need that. It's my first day." Tavon awoke inside a tent. He looked over, and there was the man again, leaning against a chair. "Where am I?" "You're in Jenny Ely's compound." This fenced compound, not far from the Civic Feast Hall, is home to Jenny Ela, Society of Sensations. Her bodyguards and scribes live in the dormitories, also in the compound, with rich black hair, twinkling amber eyes, and a taut warrior's body. Jenna appears much younger than her 60 years. She favors a Batorian green steel armor, available from severed head weapons in the market ward, fruit-scented perfumes and black diamond bracelets making her hard to miss. Jenna's true life adventure books would have not only brought her legions of fans, but have made her arguably the ward's most famous citizen. 20 years ago, Jenna was known only as the wife of Forden Ely, an importer of rare gems. It was he who established a trust fund to pay for the Doomsguard, who guard the trioptic Nicopina. Following Forden's tragic death attempting to rescue a child from a wild dog, Gina turned to writing for her consultation. Gina's initial effort, a tome about fashion trends in the lady wards called Hats, Hoops, and Hairpins, went unnoticed, but now fetches upwards to 1,000 gold pieces from collectors. She hit her stride with her second publication, Death in Norns, a first-person account of the savage outland realm. The Darkest Sigil, which chronicled the horrid conditions of the Hive Ward, secured her reputation as a riveting storyteller. Subsequent books recorded an excursion into the Dwarven Mountains, a history of the Blood War, and the study of the Lesser Yugoloth. The later work costing her 2 fingers to her right hand when an angry Mesaloth took issue with her conclusions. Drawing on her considerable fortune, Jenna employs a staff of scribes to make copies of her books. Resourceful and courageous, Jenna controls her own research, having spent a month exploring the lower planes for her Yugoloth book, and having lived in the Hive for an entire year prior to writing The Darkest Sigil. Though she has worked alone for most of her career, Jenna's advancing age has forced her to change her approach. She now hires freelance adventurers to do most of the legwork, including conducting interviews and verifying rumors, while she stays home writing. Currently, Jenna's outlining 2 books, one about the River Styx and the other about the creatures of the Beastlands. She anticipates hiring a young team of skilled professionals to work with her on these projects. Tavon's head spun. He was seeing 3s. He kind of remembered signing something. And then he woke up next to a busy street. He stood up, dusted himself off, and was relieved to find he still had the message. He looked over and saw a sign. T Street Transit. Perfect. You needed a quick ride back to Tensor's. T Street Transit, located between the Hall of Speakers and the Hall of Records, provides pony-drawn cabs that'll carry cutters to virtually any destination. The proprietor, Kyle Silkfoot, guarantees satisfaction. Customers shouldn't be deterred by his gruff exterior, foul smoke from his tar-weed cigars. Kyle's ponies are dependable. His cabs are comfortable as a mother's lap. The most popular and least expensive cab is a two-wheeler, an enclosed wagon pulled by a single pony. The driver sits on the roof, shifting his weight as necessary to prevent the vehicle from tipping. The cab seats up to 3 passengers. You can view passing scenery through a small opening in the sides and back. More relaxing and better suited for longer journeys is the four-wheeler, a larger wagon pulled by 2 ponies. As many as 6 passengers can sit inside, lounging on velvet cushions and enjoying free glasses of peach cider. Silk curtains may be drawn over the windows for privacy. The driver sits on the plank attached to the front of the cab. A driver is included in the rental price for each type of cab. Sweeper boys, also called apple pickers, are optional but recommended if Cutter wants to avoid confrontations with the Harmonium patrols. Tavon quickly got in the cab and gave the address. It took off immediately. He leaned back, gave a long sigh. He couldn't believe he might be able to pull this off. The cab came to a stop and he looked out. He wasn't at Tensor's. Where am I? The cab driver turned around and said, reach into your pocket. Reached into his pocket and found a letter. It said, I want you to go to the Hall of Information and talk to Boron Mock. Tell him I have proof of the astral streakers. Do not tell anybody of this. An adjunct of the Hall of Information may be Sigil's most valuable resource. It provides general information about government operations, cultural affairs, and private sector services. Cager's visitors with routine questions are directed here. Among the services of the Hall may provide are locating a missing relative, giving directions to the lower ward inn, recommending a reputable pawnbroker in the market ward, mediating a dispute with a merchant, petitioning for government employment, rectifying a mistaken tax assessment, explaining a status of a civil war, explaining the status of a civil war in Churon, arranging a meeting with a wealthy landowner located midway between the Hall of Speakers and the Hall of Records. The Hall of Information is a stately edifice of blue marble edged in onyx, its sparkling crystal windows framed in turquoise. A pair of marble ramps leading inside runs between 3 marble columns. The word on each column, per capital, taken together summarize the Hall's credo: cooperation, compliance, and control. Take care not to lean too hard on the cooperation column. It's been weakened by structural flaws and is about ready to collapse. The Bureau of City Services has issued a statement that the repair is imminent. Inside, a steward will arrange an appointment with an appropriate official to collect a fee when applicable. After cutters make an appointment, they may look around a bit so long as they speak in hushed tones, avoiding disturbing in any officers. Keep their hands off the clean walls. Stay away from the chief, Boron Mock. A force of mercy killer guards keeps an eye out for any troublemakers. In Borodon's defense, let it be noted that hers is a difficult job, demanding a firm hand and unwavering focus. She performs her duties well. During her 3 decades as chief, the Hall of Information's been a model of efficiency. But as a person, more precisely as a barrier, she's foul-tempered and frightening. If she has affection for any living creature, she kept it to herself. In the rigidity of her beliefs, Boron isn't so different from any other takers. She contends that society's outcasts are victims of their own laziness, that the strong are meant to dominate the weak. But Boron takes philosophy of the fated to an extreme. She believes fair breeds loyalty and compassion a character flaw. She intimidates her hall officers with vicious insults. She refers to the portal register as my little cranium rat, his children as ratlings, and lashes them with a silver whip if they fail to bow when she walks by. If Boron hadn't arranged for the hall officers to receive handsome salaries, it's unlikely that any would remain in her employ for more than a few weeks. She despises the Harmonium. It considers primes and especially repugnant species of vermin. She trusts no one, colleagues included, and is rumored to have evidence of immoral acts conducted by several Sigil's most respected cagers, which she intends to use as blackmail. Make no mistake, Borodon's neither dishonest nor deceptive. She's consumed by hatred. The reason? It may be a consequence of her appearance, A small pair of ram's horns grow from her head, almost unheard of a female barrier, making her a target of ridicule since childhood. All efforts to eradicate the horns have failed. They always grow back. The astral streakers are friendly, intelligent avians, indigenous to the astral plane. The birds are used to deliver messages throughout Sigil. A carrier attaches a message to the streaker's leg, then whispers a destination in its ear. The streaker delivers the message, then returns to the hall. When a baby streaker hatches, a celebrated but rare event, as the life cycle runs about 100 years. It accompanies a parent for a few weeks to learn the layout of the city. Harming a streaker or interfering with its flight in any way is criminal offense, punishment by imprisonment. Boron Mock looked surprised when I mentioned the astral streakers. He was very polite with me to say that it won't happen again, and gave me a platinum piece for my trouble, and told me to give them a message back that it was the last time. I smiled and went on my way. The cab was still there and drove me right to Tensor's. Again, the cab came to a stop in an unfamiliar place. Where's this? Burke, this is the Hall of Records. We just got one more thing for you. See that platinum coin? That's not just any coin. That's gonna get you in. That's gonna allow you to get to the vault. And once in there, you're gonna grab a locked iron box, then carry it out and head back in here. As the headquarters of the Fated, the Hall of Records provides a number of services to all cagers and visitors, regardless of their faction affiliation. The Hall, a former college, has been subdivided into a variety of record-keeping and administrative offices with appropriate administrative approval. Anyone may peruse the public document library in the Hall of Records to check tax assessment or examine exchange rates. A body with historical information about the Fated may request an audience with the compilers of the secret history of Sigil. Visitors selected for an interview are compensated with 1 gold piece, considered for temporary employment with the city mint, or admitted to an immediate consultation with the hall administrators. Additionally, the public may consult the announcement board in the hall lobby, where ordinances, regulation, and statistical findings are posted on a daily basis. Visitors may also wish to patronize a business on the adjacent streets. Copyists, tax mediators, bodyguard services, parchment dealers, and pawnbrokers thrive in this area. The tunnel to the Hall of Information is actually a portal to the negative energy plane. On the doorway are 9 iron levers, each marked with nonsense symbols. Solving these cues will instantly teleport you to the negative energy plane. There is a vault that contains the fees received by the steward and officials, which Boron collects every day, counts in her office, then deposits here, in a contingency fund, which varies from 100 to 400 gold pieces, in the locked iron box. A second locked iron box contains a bundle of documents that implicates various Sigil officers in crimes ranging from embezzlement to murder. Boron has accumulated these materials to protect her job, to coax favors for reluctant bureaucrats. Tavon reluctantly got out, showed his coin to one of the guards, who led him to the portal. He couldn't believe how easy this was. There, he found the lockbox, took it, stepped out. They again meticulously looked at the coin, made sure it was proper, gave it back, and he was out the door. He got back. He had such a rush of adrenaline. This is much different than writing notes. All right, you did your job. Now we can drop you off at Tensor's. Tensor's got out of the cab, opened the door to Tensor's employment service, and handed the note over to the portly man with the curly red beard. He grinned and opened it up. He gave out a hearty laugh, counted 5 copper pieces, and said, "Enjoy the day. See you tomorrow?" Tavon straightened his back, ran his hand through his brown hair. "Yeah, see you tomorrow."